I will call to order the Board of Trustees of Batavia Public Library District, our public hearing for, this is Tuesday, 20th of November, 2018. Would you start by calling the roll, Joanne, please?
Blodgett.
Here.
Galata. Beachman.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Henders.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Smith. Here.
All right, for our public hearing, this is for an ordinance levying the annual taxes for library purposes of the Batavia Public Library District in the counties of Kane and DuPage, Illinois for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, ordinance number 2018-011. Section 1, this is the public hearing for the proposed property tax increase for the Batavia Public Library District for 2018, the fiscal year beginning 1 July 2018 and ending 30 June 2019. Section 2, pursuant to the Truth in Taxation Act, the Board of Library Trustees adopted a resolution determining the amount of money estimated to be necessary to be raised by the tax levy, Resolution 2018-006, at its regular meeting on Tuesday, 16 October 2018. Section 3, in accordance with Illinois statutes, the Library District published a black-bordered notice of proposed property tax increase for the Batavia Public Library District on Thursday, 8 November 2018. This notice was published in the Kane County Chronicle. Section 4, that the corporate and special purpose property taxes extended or abated for 2017 were $3,446,035.28. The proposed corporate and special purpose taxes to be levied for 2018 or $4,597,000, which represents an increase of 33.40% over the previous year. Section 5, that the property taxes extended or abated for debt service and public building commissions leases for 2017 were $733,422.04. The estimated property taxes to be levied for debt service and public building commission leases for 2018 are $0, which represents a decrease of 100% from the previous year. Section 6, that the total property taxes extended or abated for 2017 were $4,179,457.32. The estimated total property taxes to be levied for 2018 are $4,497,000, which represents an increase of 9.99% over the previous year. Section 7, in the published notice, persons desiring to appear at the public hearing and present testimony to the taxing district were requested to contact the library director. No one contacted the library director for this purpose. In fact, no one contacted the library director to discuss the proposed property tax increase. If there is any person who desires to present testimony to the taxing district represented by this Board of Library Trustees, please step forward at this time. All right, seeing no one, I would like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Trustee Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We will adjourn our public hearing.
Who was first? Smith and then Galata? Or Smith and then Galata?
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
All right. Wrong packet. All right. I would like to call to order our regular meeting for the the Board of Trustees of the Batavia Public Library. This is our regular meeting for Tuesday, 20th of November, 2018. I'd like to begin by doing our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Joanne, would you call the roll, please?
Blodgett.
Here.
Galata. Beachman.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Henders.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Smith. Here.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience? Hi.
Hi. I'm Daniel Russo, the chair, soon to be retired chair of the Citizens for Batavia Public Library. On July 17th, just over 4 months ago, you, the Library Board of Trustees, voted to place a library funding referendum on the November ballot. Citizens were asked to redirect the 7 cents going to pay construction bonds, which will be paid off in December, to fund operations. Voters said yes. This approval will enable the library to undertake capital improvement projects that will maintain the library's physical structure and site. This approval will also enable the library to establish a reserve fund for future maintenance, and we all know that maintenance is an ongoing process. Finally, the approval allows the library to maintain and slightly expand services. All of these benefits are accomplished with a zero change in the library's tax rate. To citizens who did not vote to approve the referendum, I would ask that you stop by the library to discover the informational, cultural, and social resources that the library offers. And to the Board of Trustees, I ask that you continue your efforts to ensure that all Batavians discover the books, databases, programs, streaming services, and technology offerings that are available to all library users. I have to thank the leadership team of the Citizens for Batavia Public Library. Tamara Ashby, Lynn Elam, and Steve Larson worked tirelessly to explain the referendum to voters. I also want to thank the countless individuals who shared their stories, wrote postcards, hosted coffees, and posted yard signs. Why were so many citizens involved? Because they know that the library impacts our quality of life, draws people downtown, and makes Batavia an outstanding community. On a personal family level, I'd like to share the experience of a lifelong Batavian, Lori Holm. She said, "The library is important to me for many reasons. However, there are 2 that stand out in my mind immediately. When I was a young mother of 3 children on a shoestring budget without access to transportation on a regular basis, the library served as an outing to look forward to weekly. It began with the preparation at home as the children gathered their books to return when they could find them and picked a snack for the long walk. Upon arriving, it was always fun to greet the sculptures. To this day, my husband and I say out loud, 'Hello, Mr. Clemens,' before entering the library, something that began with our children. Summer was an especially exciting time to visit because the children loved the summer reading program. We would anticipate the start by trying to guess the theme for the year. The library staff treated us kindly and shared their knowledge of what they knew were among the children's favorite subjects, taking time to point out new arrivals. This was something we would always mark on our calendar so we would not miss any of the new programs. As a new grandma, I look forward to sharing it all over again with my grandson. The Batavia Public Library is a legacy we are able to leave as a community to the next generation. Lori Holmes' story highlights the essential role of library staff in helping everybody, children and adults, in finding the perfect books that create lasting memories. Also, her story highlights the fact that this referendum was really about enabling the library to touch many future generations of Batavians. In closing, I want to remind everyone that the citizens' engagement process called Speak Up produced 13 recommendations for guiding the future of Batavia Public Library. The referendum accomplished 2 of those recommendations. By redirecting the 7 cents to operations, the library will be able to maintain the community's investment in the building. Now, 11 recommendations remain. Batavians will be eager to see how the library explores new ways to use analytical data, develop the collection, incorporate technology, develop collaborative programs, and more. This is an exciting time for Batavia Public Library, its staff, and its users. Thank you, Batavia, for approving the library referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next item is approval of the consent agenda. We have one item we're going to pull off of this.
Number 5C6.
5C6, which is the high-speed internet. So we're going to pull that, put that under. Okay. Let's say roll call or voice vote?
This is a roll call.
No, my cheat sheet for this one. Would you call a roll into, oh, I'm sorry, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. Oh, sorry, the consent agenda. So on that, we have the minutes for the regular meeting on Tuesday, 16th of October, the public hearing on Wednesday, the 7th of November, the special meeting on Wednesday, the 7th of November, expenditures from October 2018, an ordinance levying the annual taxes for library purposes for the Batavia Public Library District in the counties of Kane and DuPage, Illinois for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, which is ordinance 2018011. A resolution approving and authorizing the library director to execute an application for a 2018-2019 per capita grant from the Illinois State Library. This is resolution 2018-007. Resolution appointing an authorized agent and matters related to the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, resolution 2018-008. Columns, this is the repair of the columns from the Standing Committee on Facilities. The guardrail section replacement project with O'Malley Welding and Fabricating, also from the Facilities Committee. High-speed internet we're going to pull out. The local area network services through Webbit, which came out of the Standing Committee on Facilities. The voluntary term life insurance through the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund with the Standing Committee on Services, and then the biannual review of the closed sessions as required by 5 ILCS 120-/2.06D, which is conducted by the Board Secretary. So those are the items on the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thanks, Rich. Second. Thank you, Diane. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, I couldn't call it. Dang it.
After that's because I forgot to put the.
Yeah, I usually put my cheat sheet, but I should know by now. I've only done this a few times. Sorry, go ahead.
Blodgett.
Aye.
Guletta. Deichmann.
Aye.
Garrett. Aye. Enders.
Aye.
McKenzie.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Now I need a motion to approve the agenda. That is a voice vote, right? Thank you.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Financial reports.
You should have for the end of October. The financial reports, through the first third of the year, actually tracking pretty well and nothing dramatic. I have two observations to make that will show up in the November statements. Last Thursday, we received the final payout from Link for the dissolution of that organization, so a little over $138,000 was received, and that was sent to the Illinois funds. So as of the next day, it was earning 2.25%. Got it there as quick as I could. The next one is our taxes. We got the final tax payment yesterday from Kane County for the property tax, and typically we get between 97 and 98% collected from year to year. This year we got 99.7%.
Well,
Don't understand exactly why, but I'm not questioning it.
No.
In the past, we budget a decrease in the property tax. We put it in and take off. This year it's budgeted $10,000. In fact, about $1,400 will be reduced because of that. So whatever we did right, let's do it again.
all right.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Joe? President's report. Let's talk about the referendum later. Sure. Okay. Regular meeting in December. I don't think we have anything on the agenda for the December board meeting.
Well, we've got a couple of committee meetings that have been scheduled in December, but I think that the final action, at least for facilities, probably will need to take place in January.
Okay. Because the finance services normal committee meetings in January would be New Year's Day, we will have those committee meetings in January, so I think we'll do our committee meeting in December still, and then we won't do them in January. And then we won't do the board meeting in December, if that's works with everybody, and then we'll do a board meeting in January, so. Okay. All right, good news, comments from the board? All right, correspondence and communications, probably a good time to talk about this. So this is George put together the official canvass of votes from the general election. And then, I think, Joanne, you looked at some of the totals cast and where they were.
Thank you.
So it's kind of nice to have all this summarized. On election night, the referendum was at plus 48 after all the mail-in votes were counted. The referendum ended at plus 58 out of 12,280 votes cast. So it was exciting to see the voter turnout was around 54%, 54.77%. So
I would say that that's actually an inaccurately low number because they haven't purged the registration rolls for 10 to 15 years. So.
Oh. Well, if we look at Batavia's population is what, 20?
About 27,000.
27, so
In our district.
12,280 voted, so.
Yeah, so that's, yes.
There's a few extra people in there that aren't in the city.
Right, I would say that the 20,000, over 20,000 they say are registered to vote in the library district is very high.
Okay.
So, because we've got way more than 7,000 children in our district. So that means the voter turnout probably was in the 60s or 70s.
That's great.
I would say.
That's great. Okay.
Just for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
It's
No,
probably
it's-
true all across the county. I think those, if they would purge the voter roll, the actual participation numbers would
Yeah.
go way up.
They do need to be purged.
Well, it's exciting to see that many
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, the turnout was amazing.
Yeah. So,
And I will, if this needs to be updated, I'll do that. But these numbers that I used for precincts were from last week's numbers.
Okay.
So there's one precinct that might flip.
Did we look at it again? Okay.
I'll look at it again.
No, that's interesting to see, so, excellent. Okay, well, thanks for doing that. Does anybody else have any comments on this?
In case anybody ever wondered where our piece of property was in DuPage County, I put it on the little map there for you.
Sticks out there a little.
There's a little dinky piece in Winfield Township that has 0 residents.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Excellent, okay.
I guess I want to use this time to tack on to what Daniel said and single out, appreciate the whole board's support, but I want to single out Trustee Smith's tireless efforts as the board liaison to the referendum project, and just a massive amount of time and effort, and just put in. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's well worth the effort.
Excellent, okay, thanks. Let's see if there's anything else in here. You know what, maybe, are you gonna talk about this in our veterans that work here? Okay, I will leave that for you. Okay. I don't think there's any other correspondence or communication.
Nope.
So directors and librarians reports?
A lot of stuff tonight. wanted to share a lot of things. We're getting into a busy season. Although December is the slowest month in terms of our normal usage, we have several interesting things we've been doing. I want to start off with something that's not in the written report. The Circulation Services Manager, Stephanie DeYoung, has been elected to the SWAN's Circulation Advisory Committee, and very happy for that. Supported her all the way in running for that position, and she will be the only representative from libraries that were in Link and Magic as part of that group now. So I'm particularly proud of the fact that Batavia will be representing the newest libraries in SWAN on the Circulation Advisory Committee. I mentioned the new Lyceum, but I'm going to let Stacy tout that. I think it's going to be one of our best ones. But I'll save that for her. Pachacachan Night's coming up a week from Thanksgiving on November 29th. That'll be our 13th one of those. The referendum we've already covered. Joanne Zillman, who was not here this evening, was recognized recently by the Association for Library Services to Children, which is a division of the American Library Association. She was featured in ALSC Voices, which is the acronym for that division, which profiled her in a feature called ALSC Profile, which celebrates colleagues of 25 years or more of membership, and it was a very nice little piece, and the link is in the report for you. If you haven't already seen that, we did put it on social media, so some people may have already seen that. Holiday decorations. After Thanksgiving, our 12-foot Christmas tree will go up. It was a gift of the Friends of Batavia Public Library 3 years ago. So we're very looking forward to that. Our patrons seem to get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And Joanne has announced previously that the annual holiday story time at Celebration of Lights is coming up on Sunday, November 25th. And a full slate of storytellers that evening. One of the enclosures is for the Black Friday deals. So the library is celebrating Black Friday at the Batavia Public Library, and with a series of coupons, and so feel free to use them. Enjoy. And the other thing that we did in honor of Veterans Day was we honored veterans who are employees or family members from any branch of the U.S. Armed Forces with a special display that we had in-house in our staff room, but also in social media. So I shared the 4 different presentations here. And I know that Rich is actually a veteran of the Marines as well. So actually, we'll have to add trustees up to expand this. If I've overlooked anybody who was in the armed services, I apologize. But it was, we got real positive, good feedback through Facebook and such, and it was liked and shared, and just a nice way to sort of reach out in the community in a different way for the library. So, I attended the last meeting. Well, I guess I could save that for Link, but I've got it in my director's report. But I attended the last meeting of the Link Board of Directors. We shall meet no more. We got the check, which Joe just announced and has been deposited. So that is there'll be a teensy bit of money coming in once the checking account is physically closed. One has to go in person to close the checking account. You can't do that via telephone or online. So, this is our 12th consecutive year of participating in the Batavia Access Toy Store. So we're a drop-off site for toys. People can bring them to the checkout desk in the library, and we're accepting donations through Saturday, December 15th. And this is a wonderful Batavia tradition that is actually much older than 12 years, so we're happy to be a participant in that. So And last, the Inspire Awards from the Chamber of Commerce. Formerly their annual dinner. Awards dinner is scheduled on Thursday, January 24th, and when they open up the reservations for that, we will keep you posted on all of that.
It's a great event if you all get a chance to go. So.
It was a very fun evening. And it's also the same evening as the Friends Board meeting, which is an inconvenience of sorts, but it's a busy time. So with that, Joanna's not here, but I know that Stacy's here. While she's coming up, if there are any questions from anybody?
Okay, just a couple things from my report that I'd like to highlight. First, George mentioned the new Lyceum lecture series that's coming up in December, and we're already more than half full. And so I'd encourage you, if this sounds interesting, contact us very soon to sign up. The program is called Christmas at Marshall Fields. It'll take place Thursday, December 6th at 7 p.m. Registration's required, and it is free of charge. We're getting all kinds of people rushing up to us and saying, oh my goodness, this has been a family tradition all my life, and lots of excitement about this program. The other announcement included in the report is the One Book, One Batavia 2019 book. The book selected is Rocket Men by Robert Kurson. It's a story of Apollo 8, and we're in the process of lining up a series of programs. Lee is putting together a series of programs related to NASA and space, and we also have the author coming to speak in March. So we're looking forward to that series taking place in the early spring months. Any questions? Thanks.
Thanks, Casey. Does anybody have any other questions on directors or librarians' reports? Okay, committee and official representative reports, facilities, Joanne?
Yeah, facilities met, and we saw quite a few things on the consent agenda. One item was tabled as part of the meeting itself, and that was the phase 1 of the RFID project. We just felt that additional information was needed to continue on with that. I mean, we just didn't have enough data to make a decision.
Okay.
The columns, that was something relatively new to the committee, but it's basically a repainting job of the columns. They just have experienced a little bit of on-purpose wear as well as just general purpose wear. So they will be repainted. Another item that didn't appear on the consent agenda was a drainage concern, and this was also something that was relatively new but brought up in the committee. And it seemed to start happening after the resurfacing of the parking lot, where the entrance down there, the employee entrance, when it rains hard, there is a lot of water that puddles all the way up to the door. And it was concerning because, I mean, Kathy had pictures on her phone just to show the amount of water that was there. And the concern that the committee, kind of was facing was with winter coming, that can be ice. And then that becomes a big safety concern. So we did approve moving forward with, now am I going to get an elevation survey? Okay, and that is to determine whether the pitch of the parking lot has been altered as a result of the resurfacing. Okay. The reason it wasn't on the consent agenda is that when the initial project was approved, there was a contingency fund, for things like this. So we just approved George to move forward and have that elevation study. If it's a pitch issue, then we go back to the contractor and see what we can do. If it's not a pitch issue, then we have to figure out what's causing the problem. So that was another thing discussed. We talked about the high-speed internet service. Maybe, George, you probably have a little more recent information than I do on that.
And I'll bring that up at the agenda item.
Okay. Okay. The servers, they were part of the technology plan. They're 5 years old. They're going out of warranty. So it was just kind of, okay, time to refresh that technology. That's our meeting.
Okay, thanks. Finance did not meet, outreach did not meet, services did meet. We had a couple things on there on the consent. The big one was the life insurance policies and the voluntary, just making those available for employees. It's all employee paid, but it gives employees a chance to get those through IMRF. And then we talked a bit about the goal setting for George and kind of doing a new way of looking at this and coming up with a better, more, something that gives us a little better feedback as a committee, as trustees with George, and kind of work through that whole process. So we're kind of still working through that and are developing some goals and we'll bring those back to the board as a whole when those are done. So that'll be something we'll talk about at our next meeting. Batavia Public Library Foundation.
Well, a few of us showed up, but we did not meet.
That's true, I forgot to cross it off here. Yeah, there was no meeting in December.
Okay.
We just chatted.
Yeah, the notice went out late.
Gotcha, okay. Friends did not meet?
The Friends did meet
Okay,
in October. They won't meet in November, but they did meet
okay.
in October.
Oh, that's true, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I forget these schedules, just.
I know.
the yeah.
It's, again, another greater than $1,000 book sale for last month. And basically, just want to remind you about the December 8th book sale. That is the regular book sale downstairs and what we call the vintage book sale in this room.
Okay.
As well as the Christmas corner now is being set up by the Friends, and that's gift quality books. A little bit more than $1, but most of them no more than $3. But they're gift quality and basically brand new.
Okay.
And then, of course, they are participating as part of Black Friday. So
Excellent.
that's pretty much it.
Okay. Link, you mentioned, is there anything else on that?
No.
Okay.
Link is.
Link is done. BATV, Rich?
Yeah, the end of another successful football season. The Batavia BATV will move their efforts over to the basketball season, which will be starting soon, very soon actually. And they also had a new budget for the coming year that was presented, which we're all reviewing and will be voted on in our meeting, which we will hold in December on the 21st. So.
Okay. Excellent. This should be all the committees then. Next, we were going to talk about the high-speed internet service, which we pulled out of the consent agenda.
Yes, indeed. The original idea was to bring the idea of this to the board for approval, subject, as it says, to an acceptable agreement approved by the library's general counsel. And this was discussing a 2-year agreement, and as I mentioned in a message I sent out, I guess it was this morning perhaps, so not everybody may have seen that. The MetroNet will not do anything less than a 3-year agreement at this point, because they are looking for a commitment because they need to actually do construction work to bring the fiber to our block, and we're the only entity on our blocks, so no one else will participate. They're not charging us for the construction, other than the fact that they want a longer-term agreement. So Ross has been out, electronic services coordinator, so he and I really have not had a chance to sit down and discuss the 3 years in detail. One of the questions I sent him, just so he'd have it in his inbox, was what his level of comfort was with the 3-year agreement, because as described in our report that the Facilities Committee reviewed, the idea is to run MetroNet and Comcast Business side by side for a period of time, with actually using both, sort of flipping them back and forth to test reliability and quality and such, which we expect to be as high in MetroNet or higher as it is in Comcast Business. Ultimately, we want to have broadband internet service with some backup, because Comcast does have outages and it does affect patrons and staff when that happens. Sometimes they're very short, sometimes they're longer, but we currently have no redundancy. So the idea was to test this out initially. And further in the long run, we have a third service, which is mentioned in my report, from AT&T through the Illinois Century Network. And for that connects us to Swan, which in fact we could use either Comcast or MetroNet for that as well. The state, in fact, encourages the use of the Illinois Century Network, and one of the reasons why we're using it, and that's the service that Link was using. So we're on AT&T now and the Illinois Century Network because of that was our connection to Link, which got transferred over to Swan. And we have a contract with AT&T for another 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, which by that time we'll want to make a decision as to whether to keep that, just for about 3 megabytes downstream and upstream. It's costing us $365 a month, which is quite a bit more than the other broadband services are charging. Plus, there's a $42 a month fee to the Illinois Century Network to participate in that. That was started as a network for schools, and it expanded to libraries quite a few years ago. And it stretches across the state, but we want to make some intelligent, good stewardship, fiscal decisions with our broadband service, and we want to have a good alternative, and that's why we're exploring this. So if the board is comfortable with the idea, I really haven't had a chance to, as I say, to discuss this with our IT manager, or I should say coordinator, we don't have much choice. If we ever want to use MetroNet, we're probably going to have to get a 3-year agreement. They just flat out have told us they will not do anything less. This has come from corporate. We actually pushed them pretty far and finally got an answer this week. So that cost would be, over the course of 3 years, $5,040, which in the greater scheme of things is a fraction of what we're paid for the Illinois Century Network. So I think in the long term, say, over the course of the next few years, if we decide to leave the one network that's so expensive and stay with the other two, we will actually save quite a bit of money in that whole process. And so I guess I would suggest that we revise the proposal to a 3-year high-speed internet service in the amount of $5,040 over that term, also subject to an acceptable agreement approved by the Library General Counsel. We have been negotiating with MetroNet. Attorney Risman provided a nice rider to add to their agreement. As of yesterday late, we got a reply when we were told that they would not do anything less than 3 years. We got a response to that rider with their own version of a rider. So I would have to say we're in the midst of a negotiating process right now, because their contract, like most business contracts, totally favors MetroNet and doesn't favor the library in terms of its general terms and how it's renewed and how we can leave it, that sort of thing. So that's a broad overview of where we're at with that. I thought it was worth, touching base more. And the options really are to proceed with a 3-year proposal or just kick it back to the facilities committee, which could look at it again once we actually have the terms settled. The advantage of the former is that we can move ahead when we're having fewer meetings in the next month or so. The advantage of the latter is it just brings it back, through the committee process again. So I'm happy to proceed whichever way.
How much time's left on the current Comcast contract?
That is an agreement we can leave at any time. It's the AT&T agreement that expires in about 1.5 years to 2 years.
March of 2020, the 18
Yeah,
days.
so it's a year and a half.
I'm interested in knowing what my fellow trustees on the facilities committee think, whether you'd like to bring this back into committee and have further discussion about it, rather than try to take action right now.
The attractive part of this, with the 2-year agreement, was that if the MetroNet service provided enough capacity to replace the AT&T higher speed capability at quite a lot more money, then over time it would be a cost savings for the library, in addition to giving us the redundancy. That's probably not, a bad idea, as far as the networking capability. I'll throw this over to Rich and Kate, but I think I would prefer it being kicked back to the committee. I'd like to hear from IT person and get their input as to, difference between a 2-year contract and a 3-year contract. Probably not going to be that great from their point of view, but I'd like to get that input. And maybe by then, we would also have the input from the attorney and have the writer kind of, taken care of.
Yeah, is there a rush from MetroNet to get this moving forward?
Typical corporation, they would have liked me to have signed the agreement last month, but I said, no, there are other issues we need to talk about here. They will not begin bringing the fiber to our block until there's an agreement.
Okay.
So they won't do any construction until then. So whatever test we're able to do won't start until they've actually installed the fiber. So I'm not sure, over the next month or so how much construction they would do. I suppose if the weather's nice, they would bury some fiber. But I don't know that it's, it's not a big deal as far as I'm concerned to kick it back to the committee.
Kate?
I defer to your opinion on the tech stuff, generally speaking. But I think it's worth having a little more information on the micro level before we bring it back to the board.
Yeah, I agree, and especially given the fact that you haven't had a chance, George, to speak with Russ or Ross about it. You'd like to be able to get that feedback too.
Okay.
I would like to know, George, if you have any more information on the Illinois Century Network. Is this a network that is particularly useful for libraries and school districts that are far away from services like Comcast and MetroNet that are leaving the group with impact? Just out of curiosity.
I don't think nowadays that's the case. When it was established, which was well over 20 years ago, I think that probably was more the case. Now with some of the broadband services that are available now through Comcast and even AT&T and MetroNet, I think that's not as big an issue anymore. 4 of the 8 former Link libraries, as part of the dissolution of Link, opted out of continuing with AT&T at that time. And we did not have a, what we felt was a good alternative, given that we were experiencing periodic outages. I mean, they're not terrible outages, but we don't want our catalog connection to go out. The one thing about the AT&T network, the Illinois Central network, is we have had very few outages with that, so there's a high level of confidence in that. I actually had scheduled Ross to go to a regional meeting put on by ICN this month on the 15th, and the weather that day caused ICN to cancel. It was at Oakton Community College, and the weather up here wasn't so much, but it was covering about a quarter of the state, and so a lot of people were traveling from south of 80, and they didn't want them to travel in the weather. So they're going to reschedule that meeting. So hopefully Ross will be able to pick up more information about sort of the future of ICN as part of this. ICN is making an effort to get out around the state and talk more with its end users.
But you said their speeds are a third of what these are, right?
No, we're only purchasing 3 megabytes of bandwidth.
Oh.
But it's costing us like more than double what
the others are.
Yeah.
But the upstream, this is the speeds, right, that you're talking about?
That's Comcast, where we currently have a 100 megabyte downstream guarantee and 15 megabyte upstream from Comcast, and MetroNet is 125 and 25.
And what's the AT&T version?
3. But that's the, we don't need more.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
Because the catalog.
So the speed's not an issue, it's the reliability.
Right.
And the cost, okay.
The cost and us, we didn't want to drop when we had the opportunity to drop A&T, we didn't have a backup.
Okay.
And we felt like we wanted to have some redundancy, otherwise we might be letting our patrons short.
So if we did go with MetroNet, we could try out, the connection to Swan on MetroNet rather than the AT&T link.
Right.
And see if it's, robust enough for that
For what it needs to
capability.
be.
I think the other 4 libraries in Link that dropped AT&T are using such services. So I think it's certainly a possibility.
Okay.
It's more in our case wanting to have some redundancy, so we didn't have just the AT&T. The service we have from AT&T could never be a backup to Comcast Business because we have such limited bandwidth. But Comcast, in fact, can be a backup to AT&T now. So we have that. So we do have it set up with that redundancy. But we don't have the redundancy going the other direction. So.
That's the nice part of going with MetroNet, in my opinion anyway, was that you were able to use that instead of the AT&T, which cost more.
Right.
And you get the redundancy for the,
Sure.
to Comcast, so.
Okay. All right, I'll let you guys look at that, or, why don't we let the committee look at that once you have the rest of the information. Okay.
Thank you.
Future agenda items, George's got a report for us in here on that.
There are no surprises on it.
Okay, and as noted, we won't have a meeting in December, so we've got some January items. And February and March, okay.
The next big thing coming down their pike, as my grandmother would say, is RFID. I think is probably our biggest project.
Okay. That'll be exciting. All right, I don't have anything else for that then. Next meetings and events. Thanksgiving. You guys have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Yeah. Okay. Then I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. We are adjourned.